Welcome to Neurodiversity Insights with Lexxic. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Mamta. She is an extremely impressive individual and warrants a large introduction. Hi Mamta.
Hello, nice to meet you, Amber.
So Mamta is a design engineer and consumer goods expert with dyslexia for a major drinks firm. She has a degree in product design engineering, an MSc in engineering management, and an MBA. In 2004, she was a finalist for the UK's Young Achiever Leadership and Diversity Awards, and she was also the Women's Engineering Society Prize winner at the Young Women Engineer of the Year Awards in 2007. Mamta was formally diagnosed with dyslexia at the age of 17, and she is an inspiration to women and neurodiverse individuals. She was recently elected to the Council for the Institution of Engineering and Technology, and she's also been featured in a number of publications such as Cosmopolitan as part of its award-winning Portrait of an Engineer campaign, which showcases modern engineers. And she frequently presents and talks and is going to be speaking at the Inspiring Women in Business event in November. That's a wealth of achievements and a lot to get out in one speech there. But Mamta is keen to redress the myths around dyslexia and showcase the positives of having dyslexia. Thank you very much for joining me today and agreeing to share your insights with us. So just to start off, can you just tell us a bit about your career and the jobs that you have done?
Sure. So I've been in industry since 2003, so quite a long time when I graduated. But I always liked the way that things worked and how things were discovered and invented. And I became an engineer, which really was the closest thing I could get from a career's point of view to becoming an inventor. So I've worked for about 10 years in the global toy industry, which I thoroughly enjoyed as a quality engineer and also as a design engineer, which, you know, bringing smiles to children's faces through engineering is phenomenal, and also it lets you kind of be quite fun at work. I've also worked in the food industry for a considerable amount of time. I'm about 7 years now in the food industry, which equally, you know, around packaging and new products and engineering and manufacturing is incredibly interesting, and also with the whole looking at new materials for all different types of products is very interesting, and it helps me kind of look visually but also technically at products.
Definitely. And what have you been doing more recently in your later career?
Both in my career and kind of outside of work, I really enjoy public speaking, and I've since then become quite an active player within the diversity arena, particularly around neurodiversity, but also promoting women in engineering, because we do have quite a kind of discrepancy between the number of men and women going into the profession. But off the back of that, I have subsequently got into neurodiversity within all areas of work. So I work with a couple of charities to promote that, and I also look at the benefits of having dyslexia, because as much as it does have its kind of downsides, if you want to put it that way, it has some great positives, and I want to leverage those now that I've got a kind of forum to do that in.
Yeah. And what would you say are those positives?
I think for me, it's definitely having the bigger picture thinking. I need to see the big picture. I'm very visual, and I need to see exactly the connections between things, and I question things a lot, which as an engineer and working in manufacturing is a massive benefit, because you question things that other people maybe don't see or do. And I look at processes very differently and shapes. So in product development, that's a real strength, because we're constantly looking at how things are put together and how things are taken apart. And if you've got those strong visual skills and pattern recognition skills, which dyslexics are known for being exceptionally good at, that's only a positive. And I can see how there are a large number of people within my sector who have got neurodiversity kind of quite prevalent within manufacturing and engineering and architecture and all those kind of visual and technical related professions.
Yeah, it's well known that those sorts of fields are very suitable for the way that people with neurodiverse conditions think, and having the way that your brain can process images and see things in 3D in a different perspective when you have dyslexia is something that must be a massive advantage in that field. And they do say that 30% of engineers have dyslexia. Would you say that that is because of the way that dyslexics tend to think, and do you think it's had an influence on where you've got to in your career today?
So when I started engineering, I was totally unaware of the kind of the ratio of dyslexics in engineering. But as I've gone through my career and been a bit more open about neurodiversity and things I found difficult, but equally things I felt like I'd naturally just excel in, I've been very open about my dyslexia, particularly in the last year. And now I'm working with the Institution of Engineering Technology, and I speak to people at very high levels, from the people that are vice presidents and at their board, at the council level, and there is a large proportion of them that are dyslexic, and a lot of the people they interact with on a daily basis have got dyslexic type symptoms. So they may not be diagnosed, but looking at their work and looking at how they process things, it becomes quite obvious that we have some sort of correlation there. And I think this is going to be an area of work that, particularly in the next 12 to 18 months, I'm going to definitely investigate further with the backing of some good people.
And do you think there is the right support within the industry and whilst you're going through university to sort of advocate those skills and harvest the way that people with dyslexia and other neurodiverse conditions think when they're studying towards the engineering degree?
Absolutely. I think within the secondary and tertiary education system, it's very good, particularly at university level. I was very much supported, and there was fellow academics that were dyslexic like myself. So they were fantastic engineers, fantastic lecturers and teachers, but they were also dyslexic. And I think they're in that profession because they love mentoring people and they like supporting and getting people to their full potential. So they're in that field because they like people and they want to coach people. What happens in industry is people don't always see the benefits of dyslexia. They still see it as a disability, and in some ways it can be restrictive, but you're not stupid and you're not unable to do things, you just think differently. And then that's the thing that I think we can still see some kind of problems. But I have spoken to a number of universities and they see the same pattern, that students get a lot of support during their university days, to the point they get very good degrees, very able degrees, you know, first class, second class degrees in engineering. And engineering itself is very difficult.
Yeah.
But then they struggle in industry because they suddenly lose that mentor or that buddy or that learning support team. So yeah, I think there's still changes to be made, but as technology improves and we become a bit more vocal about the benefits of dyslexia, I think we can see some progress being made in the coming years. And you know, I definitely think I graduated 20 years ago. I like to think that we've progressed a lot since then.
I'd like to hope so too. And obviously that's the whole ethos of us as Lexxic, as a company, is to pave the way in order to make sure that people are just as supported in the workplace as they are when they go through university.
And it's a two-way street, right? So the dyslexic employee or student needs the support, but I also think the lecturers and the managers and the vice presidents or whoever they may be, they also need to learn about what the challenges and also what the benefits are. And I think we need to play on those benefits much more than what we do at the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree. And on that, what would you say has helped you in terms of in the workplace in order to alleviate any of the difficulties that you have because of dyslexia and also promote the positives that you have?
So I guess the way I've kind of benefited or tried to kind of cope with it in the workplace, I mean, I've got a very busy job. I do lots of things at work and outside of work. But I plan quite well. I've worked with Lexxic on a number of different strategies as well. But I look at shapes and patterns, and I don't always, if I'm thinking about a project, I'll maybe draw a picture about it rather than looking at it in a very linear kind of structured way like most people would. I use mind maps, I use colours, so I colour code a lot of my projects, just to kind of figure out visually how it will work. So I do think differently to probably others that work with me or have worked with me in the past. And I think the other change is just finding space. So knowing when you work well, and whether that's in a quiet room or in the evenings or just your own space and time, that allows me to process things better. And I don't get hung up if I'm not good at something. I'll just move on. I mean, I've kind of accepted that I'm not going to be amazing at everything at work or outside of work, but it's playing to my strengths now.
Looking back at your younger self, as you mentioned there, what would be sort of a key piece of advice that you would have given to yourself back then, if you could, in the position that you're in now?
I just wish I'd focused much more on the things that I was stronger on, and I excelled in maths and I excelled in art, and stopped worrying about not being able to read as well as my peers. And you know, back then my handwriting wasn't great, but I loved the outdoors and I loved to kind of put things together. And yeah, I've made a career out of it to some extent. So I think to my younger self, it's definitely don't worry about things, because the things that are going to be a problem today are actually, there's technology now that can help you through all those spelling issues. And I think spelling is a bit of a dead art, to be honest, because we've got spell checkers. Yeah, it mattered 30, 40 years ago, but it really doesn't matter now. It really doesn't.
Speaking on technology, are there any specific tech tools that you use to help you?
Not now. To be honest, I've got a spell checker, as most people do, on the computer. I Google quite a lot of words if I don't know how to spell them, or if the spell checker hasn't picked it up. I have predictive text on my phone, and I used to, until quite recently, write down every word that I couldn't spell, and I'd put it up on my board at work. And bearing in mind, I had a quality engineering role, so there was lots of chemical names that I couldn't spell. So I just would put them up, and then no one was any of the wiser that I couldn't spell them. So I found ways around it. But bearing in mind, I've been in industry now about 16 years, and I think I've learned techniques. I also print out work. If it's a lot of text, I'll print out work and I'll use coloured markers, or I'll just rewrite things a lot, or in quite big letters and text, just to understand it or just to get it into my brain. So I'll maybe draw diagrams rather than full bodies of text as well to help me around things. So if I was sitting an exam, as I did quite recently, and I found myself drawing pictures to try and understand things. So I guess just finding techniques and whatever works, and working with your friends and your colleagues or other dyslexics to see how they work.
You're a part of lots of different networks and fingers in lots of pies and doing lots of different things. Could you just share with us what networks you're part of in terms of dyslexia, or even just engineering, women groups that might be useful for other people that are interested or are looking for areas of support?
So I mean, one institution that's very dear to me is the Institution of Engineering Technology, and they've helped me through my career, but they're also very much an advocate of neurodiversity and promoting all types of engineers irrespective of their background. And they have very senior people within their network that have neurodiversity, or they've got children that have something along those lines. So they're very supportive of everything that I'm doing at the moment. And the other thing is, I'm also on the advisory board for Management Today's Inspiring Women's Conference, and we look for women that have broken barriers for whatever reason, whether that's gender, race, background, careers, but also just done things against the odds. So whether that's because they are dyslexic and because they didn't have the opportunities that other people had, And then with regards to dyslexia itself, I'm very close to the people at Dyslexia Scotland, partly because I grew up there. Made in Dyslexia are also doing some interesting work. But there are just everyday people talking about what they're doing and sharing stories on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, just talking about what they're doing. And I think they're stories from the heart, you know, they're not got some corporate kind of coating on it. This is actually people that are talking about what they're finding easy and what they're actually finding difficult and sharing lessons. So I've benefited a lot by just reaching out to those people as well. And another network within engineering is the Women's Engineering Society. And then also I'm still in contact with people at my university as well. So
nice, yeah.
We collectively just do as many things as we can in the time that we've got. And even if that's an evening call or on the route back from work, we try and spend time together to just talk about what's important to us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to put some links in within this so that people can find those. It's really useful to obviously point people in the direction of where the support is, because often people aren't sure. And for anyone that thinks that they might have dyslexia as well, just having a look at those networks and getting advice can be really useful. Where do you think you know, the future's heading for people with dyslexia, and what sorts of things do you have planned for yourself in the future as well?
So the future for dyslexics, I think, looks much brighter than what it did 30 years ago. I'm much more positive about it, and I can see how technology has helped us. So we've got the spell checkers literally in the palm of our hands. We have the world's working at a much faster pace, and it's much more strategic and much more global. And if we think of the skills that dyslexics are strong on, they're very empathetic, they're very big picture thinkers, they understand technology, and they pick up, I've noticed at least, they tend to be able to pick up technology very quickly. And if you think of where we're going as a country and as a global kind of entity, everything's becoming about AI, it's becoming about digital, fast moving. Language won't be the barrier to success. It will be how quickly you can pick up strategic ideas. And I think that's where dyslexics, if anything, could have the skills for the future. They're actually the people that have got those skills in abundance. And some people are now questioning whether dyslexia is actually a gift and not a disability in its purest form. So I think it looks very bright.
Good.
And where we were 30 years ago and when I was at school, yes, definitely moved leaps and bounds, which is really good news. And I think the next 30 years looks very promising. And we have brilliant companies and institutions that are advocates, openly asking for dyslexics to apply. So people like GCSQ, the intelligence, the British intelligence body, they openly want strategic thinkers that are slightly different, and they want dyslexics. You also have people like Ernest Young. They again are openly calling out for dyslexics.
Well, thank you very much for joining me and sharing your experiences. I hope that everyone has enjoyed listening as much as I have. And I will put some links on for further information about yourself and the networks discussed. And thank you again.
Thank you very much, Amber.